Welcome. This is the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is where you'll learn strategies to help you achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host, Rod Khleif, has owned over 2,000 homes and apartments, and he brings experts in all aspects of real estate investment and management onto the show. Now, here's your host, Rod Khleif.
Welcome to Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I just want to mention one thing before we get started, guys. For the last 8 months, I've been working on a book. And I got to tell you, it's 200 pages long, and it covers everything from finding the right markets to, structuring deals, talking to sellers, talking to brokers, getting your funding. It talks about syndication, which is what we're going to talk about with our fantastic guest today. It talks about, even property management. It's 200 pages long, and guess what? Best of all, it's free. Okay, I'm going to give it to you guys because I take calls from you. I take, free 30-minute calls. I do about 6 or 8 a week, and I've talked to over 100 of you, and there's a pattern that's emerged, and that is that just about every one of you needs some help. And I'm really hoping this book is a step in the right direction. So to get the book, all you have to do is text my name, Rod, R-O-D, to 41411, and we'll put you on the list for the book. I'm supposed to get the final edit back tomorrow. It's going to be another week or two beyond that, but then it'll be sent to you. So again, text Rod, R-O-D, to 41411, and we'll put you on the list for that book. You guys are going to love today's guest. Besides being an incredible human being and just an incredibly nice man, his name is Vinney Chopra. He's a very, very successful real estate investor and syndicator. Between his 2 companies, he's got over $100 million worth of multifamily real estate. He has done I think over 20 syndications. We'll get the exact amount. He's a motivational speaker. He's done 10,000 speeches on fundraising and positive thinking and goal setting and all the things that I love talking about. And I'm just thrilled that he's on the show. Vinney, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to talk to you and what you are pursuing and also your audience. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I know that you're. I'd like to take a minute and tell your story. I know you immigrated from India, and just tell us a little bit about that, how you got started, and then when you made the decision to go into multifamily.
Sure, Rod. Actually, I'm from New Delhi, India. I grew up there. Always wanted to be an engineer, mechanical engineer, broke a lot of toys and tried to put them back together. I became one and worked for Larsen Toubro, a very nice company in Bombay, India. But my heart was coming to USA, which I think I decided in high school I would like to come out here and do my MBA in marketing and sales. And I went to George Washington University about 40 years back. Oh my gosh, that's a long time. And I came to this country with $7 in my pocket, like most of the immigrants do, and then got hooked up with a company which actually sold encyclopedias, books and education books, Bibles, as a matter of fact. And I sold that outside Atlanta, Georgia. Austell, Mableton, Douglasville, all that area. And I loved it. I just loved to be out there interacting with people and all. And that was the turning point in my life. I just closed the chapter on engineering, can you believe it, after studying it for 5 years, and then went to marketing and motivation and worked with a company, very nice company, privately held company over there in the Tennessee area. And I just retired from that company last year, June of last year, after 40 years with one company. But we have been investing, my wife and I, for about 30 years, actually, in single family. Even we invested in multifamily, 164 units in Reno, Nevada. We live near San Francisco, California, in Danville, little town called Danville. We've been living here 36 years, and we've been married 36 years.
Oh, congratulations! That's beautiful. Now, just to back up for a second, you actually sold encyclopedias door to door, right?
I sure did,
Wow.
and it's
Wow.
amazing. I was an engineer, didn't know anything about selling, but that was my first job, and I had to, earn money to pay my tuition and all. And I said, hey, I've never, my positive outlook in life has been right from the starting. And I said, yeah, well, I'll give it a try, and I loved it.
Wow, and I know that just because I've talked to you before, I know that previously your job that you were at for 40 years, it was involving fundraising, correct, for charities and the like.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Nonprofit and profit organizations.
Mm.
We would give and speeches to 50 people, to 100, to 500, mostly youth, and help them raise money on a daily basis, we could say. But
Mm.
majority of our focus was for 5 months in a year.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So that was your background, and then when did you buy your first multifamily property?
Okay, that would be, I would say, about 8 years back, 8 or 9 years back. What happened was my wife always said, boy, Vinny, and we own a lot of single family homes,
Right.
still do. We are
Okay.
selling them. But she says, you're so knowledgeable. Why don't you sit in the exam and get a broker's license? I
Oh
said,
yeah.
oh, sounds like a great idea. So I got a lot of exemptions because you have to be a salesperson for 2 years. And I think then sit in the exam. But I was able to do it without going through all those channels
Mm.
because I knew so much. So, and anyway, I sat in it and passed it. So I'm active California broker, but we didn't want to open like join
A
a local
brokerage. You
company.
didn't want to open a
Yeah.
shop, right? Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And then I looked into commercial. I said, that is the way I want to do. And my wife and I, felt like that'll be the best for our lifestyle with
Sure.
little kids and everything. So that's when I started looking into Rod, like hotel and industrial and office buildings, all that.
Yeah, all
But
the different commercial real estate sectors. Okay.
exactly. And multifamily caught my attention and I loved it. More and more I read about it about 10, 12 years back. It just made sense. And then it was a crash coming in 2007, 8,
Yes,
So
I know
that,
very well.
and that's what I found. The lenders were still giving money to
Right.
good properties back then and seller financing and all that. That's when I made a decision and learned the business through a CDs, through some videotapes and
Right.
all.
Right.
And rest is history.
And so let's talk about your first deal because I've talked to you about it before, and it's very interesting. What I understand, you picked a market. And let's talk about that market and why you picked it.
Surely. One thing which has really impressed me about apartments and learning about them, they have to be filled up.
Right.
you know, you got to have them 90, 95 to 100% occupied. It's not fun to have apartments 70%, 75, but we should add value. And one thing I decided many years back was that I'm going to go after emerging markets. And there are several books on the, Amazon on emerging markets. And I started reading and highlighting. All talked about jobs,
Yep.
that you got to go to city or part of the city, metropolis areas. And I live in California. I started looking, but the numbers won't work. So underwriting wise, the cash on
So
cash.
you lived in California. You realized you couldn't make it work there, so you started looking at other markets. And
Yes.
and in the books that you read about emerging markets, you saw that jobs was the number one thing you needed to focus on.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And the unemployment. So I went to different, places for data to get where was in the whole United States at that time, 2007, 8, where was the least amount of, what's it called? Job
Unemployment.
desperate. Yeah, unemployment,
Right. Right. You
and
want you
found
wanted
out.
places that had tons of employment and job growth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And you're not going to believe it. In small cities, Odessa and Midland came on the top. They came on the
Texas.
top. Yeah, Texas. That's
Right.
right.
Okay.
And 3.24 or something percent as compared to a lot of other places in USA for like 8, 9% and all that. So that caught attention and the rest is history. We started talking to brokers there and then we started, talking for 9 months, Rod. we did not get a deal. 9 months.
How many did you look at? How many did you look at in those 9 months?
Oh my gosh. I would say back then, being the small town, so I don't remember correctly, but probably, quite a few.
Okay.
And then we looked at Dallas also, by the way, because that's not too far from Midland and Odessa. But we spent a lot of time and energy in Dallas and got turned down and turned down and turned down.
Okay.
But the key thing is to keep the attitude. That's what I like to say to
Now,
the
when
audience.
you say you got turned down, I want to go back to attitude, but when you say you got turned down, you mean you made offers that didn't get accepted, or what does that mean?
Yes,
Okay.
turned on. We were novice, my partner and I.
Okay.
I lived in California, and the lenders wanted to see how far we live and all that. And
And
do we have
so
any
because you
experience?
didn't have any yet, you were being turned
Yes,
down because you didn't have the background and all of
surely.
that. Now
Yep.
I know your story, like I said, because we talked before,
Yes.
and from what I understand, your first big deal was a bank owned REO, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
Right.
it's amazing. It's
And
amazing.
this was in '08 is when you bought it?
Yeah, oh 08.
Right,
Oh
and
08.
that's the heart of the crash too. I mean, that is ground zero when the crash hit, and you're buying. Hey guys, with crisis comes opportunity, and there is another contraction coming here at some point, and there's going to be opportunities. And Vinney, correct me if I'm wrong. It was bank owned, and I believe you told me that the bank actually offered you financing on the deal.
Right,
Wow.
right. And then our big one was the one for 14 unit, I think, which we bought
Okay.
outright. Local bank gave us the money, but the other big one, 109 units and 101 storage units, seller financing. I think I mentioned that.
Right.
Seller financing was also one of the ways where we could get into this market. So I would like to ask your audience, it's always good to ask, from the
Absolutely.
seller, even if smaller number of units or whatever, they would love to get hassle-free money come in every month.
That's
So
right.
seller financing is a great way.
Right. So guys, if you're hearing this, he didn't have the infrastructure or the background, the resume to buy a large property, but the reason he was able to get over 100 unit property was because he had seller financing on this deal. And then he's got the resume. So from there, you were able to springboard that into syndicating and continuing to buy larger deals, correct?
That is so true, Rod. Actually,
Okay.
we raised about 1.150 million and
Okay.
40% down with the seller financing. And then we bought more properties and more and more. Actually, we sold that 109 units, bought for 2.4 million, sold for 5 million.
Wow. It's bought
After
for 2.4, sold for 5. I'm sure you guys can
five.
do that math. Wow.
Then we bought, in my team, Ideal IG, we bought, what did we buy? Oh, 1.9 million, sold for 4.2. And then, kept on doing. We went to San Marcos, Texas, then San Antonio, Texas, kept on buying. We bought about 14 syndications, I think, in the old company. And now we are kind of selling them because in syndication, we'll talk about it. Usually you give a horizon to the investors that we're going to sell within 5 to 7 years,
Right.
to be safe. Yeah,
Right.
to be safe. And then with my new company, Monil IG, which is our kid's name, Monica and Neil, we are really
Right.
proud of both of them. And
By the way,
we-
guys, the IG means investment group.
Yeah.
So just so you know, he uses the acronym. So the new company is Monil Investment Group, and the original one was I forgot the name.
Ideal
That's right.
Investment Group.
Ideal IG, Ideal Investment Group. So
Sure.
so you're selling out of Ideal Investment Group because those investors, you had given them a horizon of 5
Yes.
to 7 years, and you're into that 5 to 7 year horizon.
Yep.
And so now and I know, but you've got over $100 million worth of assets between the two groups now.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about doing a syndication. Let's talk about how you found the investors, and then just step by step. So now I'm cheating here because we have spoken before, and I know
Sure.
that you. Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and speak, please.
Oh,
Please.
okay. In the early part, nobody knew us, right?
Right.
Nobody knew. Actually, I remember now one of my very good friend who has become over the years, like 8 or 10 years back, I sat in his living room and I was pitching him on that 109, right, unit.
Right.
And I need to raise money, 1.1150, whatever. And he said, Vinny, okay, how many, tell me a little bit more. How many projects you have done? I said, none. He says, what's your track record? Have you managed sometime? Well, I said no. So everything was no, but he just took a gamble on me.
Wow.
And, he said, I'll give you 50,000. I'll invest with you. And then later on, he felt more comfortable. And by the time we were closing the deal, that 109 units, he gave me 125,000. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And then we went to some boot camps, some RIA meetings. That's something your audience should always do, always do. Now, one decision I made about 12 years back, and I told my wife, was not to get family involved. Don't take a dime from the family or relatives within the family or close friends. Like we have about 100 to 150 families we know in closed circuit,
Right.
and many of them don't know what I do, by the way.
Wow. Wow. So you did all this money raising without involving family or close friends. And guys, I did not get that memo. And when '08 hit, I got to tell you, it took a couple of years to rebuild those relationships. When you involve people in your investments and they go south, it's not pleasant as if they're family or friends. So, that was very smart. And some people, won't hear that and they'll do it anyway. But I'll tell you, it is dangerous. And Vinney, I think that's very good that you did it the way you did it. So, so you did local RIA groups. You went there and talked about your deals. You found investors there as well.
Yes, over there. And then we started building some lists and we would put some seminars. Like I'm a presentation guy, I've been doing it all my life. So I feel very good designing PowerPoints and things. So we send invitations. I remember several times in San Jose area, Foster City, we, paid for luncheon, invited investors there, and I'll give a whole spiel. But through the SEC rulings, we have to be really, really careful what we speak to the audience and what we don't. Right. We have to have that 3-point contact, like you mentioned, right?
Right. Now, so guys, just so to recap, so what he was doing was, inviting potential investors to buy them lunch, and he has a PowerPoint, and we'll make that accessible to you. He sent that to me so you can get an idea of how you do it, and you put on a presentation about investments, but you have to be vague because what he's talking about, the 3-point rule with the SEC, is there have to be 3 touches before you can pitch them on a deal, and so you can't just advertise and have people come into a room. Well, I will say this now that the new and Vinney, we didn't talk about this the last time we talked. The new SEC regs will allow you to pitch if it's a certain type, if it's a certain type of a Reg D offering, and I think it's a 506C. And you're if you're just going to accredited investors, you can. But guys, for right now, for the purposes of this call, we're going to talk about how it was if you do a normal Reg D offering. You can't approach anybody until you've developed a relationship, and the SEC determines a relationship as 3 touches. So correct me if I'm wrong, Vinney, what you would do is you do your presentation and then you'd gather information on these people, and then I suppose you'd call them and have a cup of coffee or just say hi and a couple of times?
100% right. 100%. Okay. You got to sit down with them or even call on the phone and then find out about their goals, their situation. You are building relationship. That's what that is. Right. And then finding out their needs, because there has to be certain criteria for them to invest in. They have to have, so much net worth. We do take sophisticated investors, very few. in my PPMs, private placement offerings we'll talk about.
Right.
But otherwise, accredited investors are the best investors. I want to say that to your audience. It's good to build with people who really have a lot of money.
Right.
Because
and guys, just so you know, what he's talking about, because some of my listeners may not know what you're talking about. There are different types of investors. There's accredited, and of course, I should have had those guidelines. Do you know those off the top of your head, Vinney?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay,
They have to have $1 million net worth, excluding the home.
Right.
So any kind of equity in the home does not count.
Okay.
Or they need to be making 200,000 in the last 2 years, and this year and last year, or 300,000 income, including their spouse.
Okay, so you guys got that. So they have to have the last 2 years they had to make 200,000 a year. Or 300,000 married, or $1 million net worth without their principal residence. Then they're accredited, and as we get into, and I'm going to do another episode on the new regulations where you can actually advertise to accredited investors. It's a different type of an offering, but for purposes of this conversation. What's great about dealing with accredited is they're sophisticated. They're not going to require as much hand holding. Is that correct, Vinney?
That is so true, Rod.
Okay.
I just want to let you know, over the years, and again, it's a great thing for your audience to know, please build relationships and send letters and, emails. And like I mentioned, when we were discussing after the investors invest in my, offerings, then we do like every month web call through GoToMeeting or WebEx, where I PowerPoint presentation, like the very first month after the closing is the closing cost, closing statement. And my whole companies, both of them, have been totally transparent in nature. I always believe that, to build credibility, you got to open yourself up. So
I agree. Yeah, no, that's smart. Now, just so I can recap, because you've moved past the purchase into your investor relations. What he's talking, no, that's okay. What he's talking about here, guys, is it's critical to take care of your investors and have lots of communication. So what Vinney does is every quarter, or is it monthly or quarterly?
No, after the acquisition, it's monthly for 4 months. Okay. After that, it's quarterly.
Okay, so the first 4 months after the purchase, he prepares a PowerPoint and gets his investors on a WebEx call or a GoToMeeting call and goes through what's happening with the property. I mean, guys, that is above and beyond what most syndicators will do. But I can tell you, I'm sure that his investors love him for that because they know what's going on with the deal. And I know you record those sessions as well, so that if the investor can't make it at that exact time, they can watch it later. And then, so you do the first 4 months, and then you do it quarterly, and you're updating them on what's going on with the property. And I know investors that just have like a quarterly call, and they'll have like a conference call, and they'll talk about what's happening. But when you do an audio visual presentation like he's talking about, guys, you're so far above and beyond what most people will do. And guys, these investors that are investing in your deals are literally gold. They're not like gold, they are gold. And so, the more you do to develop those relationships over the years, I mean, not only will they keep investing with you, but they'll tell everybody they know about you. Correct, Vinney?
Rod, you hit the nail on the head. Right. These investor base of about 100, less than 100 now, I could put an offering in the morning, like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock through email. I can raise 5 to 7 million by the end of the day. Or next day.
Wow. So guys, so you heard that in less than 24 hours, he can raise 5 to 7 million for a deal. That's how effective this type of investor relations is and building these relationships. So Vinney, you did dog and pony shows. I call them dog and pony shows. You'd go to a hotel. You'd buy them lunch or dinner. You'd do your PowerPoint, talk about the advantages of real estate investing and how to use their IRAs and how the real estate compares to maybe the stock market, bonds, and the safety of real estate. All of these things, and then you'd go out and would you already have a deal when you did this, or were you kind of doing this while you were looking for deals?
Okay, good point. I think the key thing in syndication world, I would say, Rod, is that you have to spin many plates at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
You got to be building your team, get the right partner. I would highly recommend not to have too many people in the pot because
Okay.
then it gets very muddy.
You're talking about managing partners now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
managing
see.
partner.
We're not talking about investors right now, guys. See what he's saying when he's got too many people. If you have too many managers involved, then
Yeah.
not only are you diluting the equity, which is
Yes.
unnecessary, but you've got too many chiefs in the kitchen too, or too many cooks in the kitchen. And so,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you don't need more than you and a partner.
Yeah.
You don't need
Plenty.
more than two, right? And
Plenty. Like I'm running my whole company of 70, 65 or 70 million. It'll be, in 2 years, I built this company, Monil IG, and I'm the only chief on the top. I
Right.
don't have any other, and my, 100% owner and everything. But let me just go back to those. You're right. Where we are giving these presentations and building relationships, because you got to get the investors plate going. You got to have
Right.
quite a few investors because you have a very short time as a syndicator. Once you lock the property in, you have about 21 to 30-day due diligence
right.
and then 30-day close after that, or 45-day close.
Right.
So the timing is so important that we have a base of investors who are ready. They're just
Right.
chopping at your door.
Right,
Hey,
but
when's
they
the
want to
next-
invest their money.
Yeah.
So I want to just back up for a second, so that people aren't confused. So, guys, when he said 65 to 70 million coming up here, he's talking about his new Monil investment group.
Correct.
And you're the principal in that one. Your previous
Yeah.
one is the one that you had multiple partners in.
Yes.
That's about 50 million as well, and that's the one that that's why you're moving into Monil and
Correct.
wanting to do this yourself. So there's a lesson there, guys. I mean, although he ended up with $50 million worth of assets in the initial group, there are a lot of partners in that group, and that of course dilutes your interest.
Sure.
And so. Yeah. Okay. So now back to getting those, getting these investors to raise their hand and say, "Yes, I'm interested. Send me information." So when you found the deal, what did you do?
Okay, now as soon as the investors said yes, they would like to invest through 401k, IRA, or cash, I start sending them articles about the emerging market and preparing them why we are searching in that market. See,
I
the
love
thing
it.
is the money has to flow to the acquisition. So you need to kind of warm them up and let them start looking at things and give them graphs and articles and everything, right?
So guys, what he's doing is he's educating his potential investors on the marketplace that he's interested in. So you're pulling articles that speak to the benefits of the area. You're sending them demographical information and graphs, and some investors love that stuff. The analytical ones, they love graphs and charts. So you're warming them up to the area while you're out there looking for deals. So you're keeping your list so to speak warm, so they remain interested. Guys, that is brilliant, and I've never heard that said before. You guys, I hope you write that one down. That is really important. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rod. And now we are starting to build the team with brokers,
Right.
and inspectors, appraisers, and the lenders. That's the other plate we need to spin on this at the same time. Just to say to your audience, I just spent 4 days in a new market. I've been in Texas for about 10 years now, but I feel like there are a lot of other things emerging in this country. Denver, Seattle, Carolinas, the Tech Triangle, Atlanta, Dallas, north of Dallas, you name it, right?
Right.
So I have made up my mind. It took me 6 months to say that Atlanta is on the go,
Okay.
So I spent 4 days meeting with the big cheeses. I say big cheeses. These are the heavy hitters in multifamily,
These are brokers he's talking about, guys.
Yeah,
so he
brokers.
researched to find the top brokers in the Atlanta market, and you flew out there and you met with them. And of course, now you've got your resume to show, hey, guys, this is how I take deals down. I'm not here to waste your time because, brokers don't get paid unless you close. So you went and met with them and now they're sending you deals, I suppose.
Exactly. They are. And they know that I like mostly the off-market deals. All the 10 properties I bought in 2 years under Monil have been off-market, by the way.
Yeah, guys, off-market means they weren't listed on LoopNet. They were just like a broker listed them and put them out to his list first because, and Vinney's going to tell you here in a minute how he does his business and why this is so important. But tell them why you get off-market deals, Vinney.
Yes, I would love to. I'm a California active broker. I have license and everything, but I decided about 10, 12 years back, Rod, that I'm going to only work with listing brokers of the multifamily. I do not want any buyer broker who is other than the listing because the thing is there is a vacuum in between and you cannot really see and feel the temperature of the seller. The temperature of the seller is known by the listing broker.
Let me clarify, if you don't mind, Vinney, because guys, for those of you that I mean, if you don't know, I'm gonna give you a little elemental lesson here. So obviously, there's a listing broker. Typically, in many transactions, the listing broker doesn't sell the property. All they do is market it, and a selling broker comes in and writes a contract and sells it. And that happens in commercial real estate as well. But what Vinney has realized, and there's another big reason that he's realized this, and we'll share that in a minute. But what he's realized is if you're dealing through an intermediary like a selling broker, you really don't have the behind the scenes information on what's motivating the seller versus if you're dealing directly with the listing broker, he doesn't just have an obligation to the seller, he has an obligation to you. So you're going to get a lot more insightful information that you typically wouldn't get if it was being relayed through another person. Is that an accurate statement?
Totally, Rod.
Right.
And also, I have never taken split commission. In other words, I give my commission to the listing broker and they love me.
That's right. So guys, if you're if a listing broker sends you a deal, let them write it. Because who are they going to go to with their next off-market great deal if they know they're going to get the full commission if they're dealing with you, correct?
Yes.
See?
Double.
Almost
double.
So they get double the money, and I'm telling you right now, that's how you get off-market deals because they want to see if they can sell them themselves and not have to split the commission. So that's been a huge piece of your success, wouldn't you say, in finding these great deals? Yeah.
It really has been, Rod, and it's amazing that a lot of these brokers, and they're big ones, ARA, Marcus Millichap, Transwestern, Cushman, these
those
big
are
ones.
the biggest, right?
Yeah, they are. ARA, I did say that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even if they are having, like on a napkin, sitting down on a dinner with some seller, guess what? It usually takes about a month or month and a half for them to get all the information, all the data, and everything.
Sure, they've got to get all the historical financial data on the units, but they can be talking to Vinney about the deal, or you guys listening, they can be telling you about the deal while they're putting it all together. And I can tell you, the seller's not going to be pissed off if it gets sold before it hits the market. They're in it to sell it. So that's the advantage of working with the listing broker and not having a buying broker come in. Brilliant.
Sure.
Now I want to recap one thing you just said, because we're moving through a lot of stuff. So guys, you're spinning 3 plates at once. One is you're out there talking to investors. Maybe you do presentations like Vinney has done. And now, of course, he's got the benefit of having spoken so many times doing his fundraising. But guys, if you're not afraid to talk to a group, that is a phenomenal way to get investors. So, but if not, go to RIA groups, go to your local meetup groups and find them there and start developing that list and maintaining contact. Toastmasters, okay. There you go. There's another one.
Toastmasters is awesome organization. I know Dale Carnegie. I've been speaking for such a long time, but Dale Carnegie charges a lot of money, but your local morning or lunch or dinner, Toastmaster will be much cheaper way, and they give you all the tools for almost very little cost.
There you go. So that's plate number 1, looking for investors. Plate number 2 is you're out there looking for deals. You're developing relationships with brokers. Plate number 3 is you're putting what did you say? The financing and or the team together.
Yes. Yes. Now that is the big thing. As soon as you get the contract, LOI is sent in. LOI is the letter of intent, and it's really great in the whole equation to get a great lawyer, real estate lawyer, attorney. Like I mentioned to you, I have met Milton Colgrove, my good friend, from Dallas, only 3 times in 11 years. In 11 years, we have only met 3 times, but we talk on the phone. Everything is virtual nowadays, And then he's helping me design the LLCs, and then my syndication attorneys. They are the best in the USA. I don't know if you want me to say their name.
No, go ahead. Absolutely, give them a plug.
Kim Taylor. If any of your audience would like to get Kim's name or email address, I would love to. They could call me, which I'll give my phone number and email address towards the end. No problem. But they have been amazing. Kim has been working with me for 10 years, and every syndication, I've done about 22 of them or 24 of them or something. And, the key thing is that they are reputable and they know all the laws. I would not recommend any of your audience to get some syndication package from some other person and try to un-PDF it and then copy paste it.
No, guys, don't even consider doing that. You definitely, when you're going to syndicate, you find an attorney, and we'll make sure, and we put Kim Taylor's information in the show notes. I'll get it from you as well, Vinney. So that's super.
And I do want to say one more thing, Rod, that I'm not paying for it. I'm just raising money. So I underwrite all these closing costs, the due diligence of 9,000, whatever, 10, 12,000, syndication fee, lawyer's fees. And, on top of all that, the 6 months of insurance fee, escrow account, utility deposits. I learned all that,
of these upfront fees, guys, obviously get plugged into the deal. You're not paying them out of pocket. But now we're going to talk about something that's going to excite you, and that is, as you're the syndicator, you're putting these deals together. You're out there hunting for them. You're out there meeting with brokers. You're traveling. You're doing due diligence on deals sometimes that you don't pull the trigger on. So you're spending money sometimes that you don't actually close on a deal. That happens sometimes if the seller, for example, is not been forthcoming, or you discover things that are deal killers. So Vinney, talk about your acquisition fee.
Oh my gosh. I was told, everybody said it should be between 3 and 5% of the value of the property. And I said, oh, all right, that's pretty good. I just took the middle ground, 4%. So I charge 4%. Rod, if I may say so, I made $1.4 million last year.
In acquisition fees?
Total, acquisition.
You made $1.4 million just in acquisition fees last year.
Well, no, acquisition as well as my cash flow checks from different assets we own. I should say that.
Okay. Yeah. That's fantastic. Well,
it's
guys,
going to be $2 million this year. About $2 million this year. Yeah,
that's fantastic, guys. Acquisition fees are you've got to do it because it's only fair. And you may get an investor that complains, and you just tell them, listen, I'm the one out there hunting deals, and I'm the one that's spending the money on deals that don't happen. I'm the one orchestrating this. And honestly, if they complain too much, you don't want them in your investor pool anyway.
Exactly, Rod. I was going to say that. You got it's a very good profession being a syndicator. We are on the loan. We are taking all the risks.
That's right.
The investor is just bringing the money, passive investment, and we're giving them, 8-9% preferred plus the back end, the gains close to 18 to 24%, and they are happy. I mean, where would they get that kind of return?
That's right.
Sitting, and doing in their job, in their profession. Most of my investor base is very intelligent. They have their own companies, or they're working for a very high position.
So guys, what he just said is he gives them an 8 to 9% preferred return. So off the top, before anybody gets any money, they get 8 to 9% on their money. Now, if there's no income for some reason, if there's some capital expenditures up front, then there's no distribution, then that 8 to 9% doesn't have to go out. But guys, investors love hearing that. And then, of course, they get a piece of the deal on the back end, so that once the liquidation event happens 5 to 7 years from now, whether it's a sale or a refinance, they get their investment back and or they get a higher rate of return at the sale. And you're talking typically about an 18-19% total return. Is that what you tell people?
Yes, that is true. That is true. And my first deal, by the way, the one 2.4 to 5, my investors made 47% per year. 47%.
Wow, that's fantastic. And guys, and that's the other thing. You always want to under promise and over deliver, because when you get them more than you told them they were going to make, you've got them for life. And so that's really important as well. Now,
Totally.
let's talk. So let's talk about how you make money. Not only do you end up with cash flow from the deal, because obviously you're retaining a percentage. And what percent do you typically retain? Is there a typical, or is it all over the board?
No, it's not. I just feel like doing things in system.
Okay.
I like to make sure I find the right deals which have great equity built in them, and with the momentum play. I'm not a rehabber kind of thing.
Okay.
So I like to look for momentum. They are about 85% or more occupied. Many of them are 90% occupied or 90 to 95%. But what it is that, we give preferred rate, but then we split 60-40 most of the time.
Okay.
Even for the first year, I might give cash flow of 65 to the investors to make the numbers work, because I know when I take over the property, I'm going to increase the rent and do some value plays, and then it goes to 60-40 split. That comes out really good. Every quarter, we use Wells Fargo bill pay. I've never written a check in last 12 years.
So, guys, he uses Wells Fargo's online system to pay his investors to make sure they get paid on time, and he uses their bill pay program. And most of the big banks have this, but that's fantastic. So you don't have to deal with it. But so you do a 60-40 split. So basically, you and your partners get 40%, and then the investors get 60%. Okay,
that's right. That's right.
And then so you get an acquisition fee, you get the cash flow. Now talk about management.
Okay, now management, one thing we decided many years back, my partner and I, we had a very big company from Dallas managing our assets early on. But then we found out, they were like mixed cash and accrual basis. We didn't really know how much money was really out there at the end of the month, and they were spending our own money, with some extra packing,
Sure.
percentages.
They have lots of profit centers, including maintenance and all that. So you did what I did, and that is you started self-managing, correct?
That's right. That's right. We have done it now with Ideal IG, Ideal Management Group. We have a sister company. Same thing with Monil Investment Group. We have a Monil Management Group, which I'm the CEO of that also. And it's so wonderful for the staff in that company to know that the owner and the manager is the same. A lot of things happen. The decisions are made, very easily, correctly, and so forth. And they love that.
So guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, buddy, but let me just say this. If you're dealing with investors, and particularly once you've got a little bit of experience behind you, who do you think they want managing their asset? Who do you think they're going to be more comfortable with? They're going to want someone who's totally invested like you, because you have an ownership interest in managing that asset. And I know I would, if I was an investor, I'd much rather have one of the principals involved in the management. And of course, you get a management fee. Doesn't get much better than that.
That's so true. So true, Rod, And the good part is that you are at the pulse of everything happening, at the property, and you can give them the good, the bad, the ugly. And, the best thing is to be transparent. Right. I don't know if I mentioned that before or not.
Yes, you did.
I made it to say,
but speak about it a little bit. Talk about what that means in the management.
Management part of it. We ask our investors that they have any need to find out about invoicing or bank account, bank statements, ledgers, anything related to their investment, they could ask us, and we'll provide them, not only financials, but all the backup data also. Wow. That has served us well, because people have, even to give $10,000 to somebody, people think a lot about it, know.
Sure.
And
They want to know it's not going to somebody's cousin.
yeah,
That's for a job that should have cost $1,000. So no, I get it.
exactly.
And that level of transparency. I mean, that's well, first of all, you have to work from a place of integrity anyway. But if you allow that transparency, then your investors are happy and they're satisfied. And let me ask you something, Vinney. Have you ever tried to I've interviewed some people that like my first interview was a guy that had 45,000 units, and he says he never sells. Have you ever tried to put deals together where the liquidation event is a refinance versus a sale?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Let me tell you about this one.
Okay.
The one we sold for 5 million, 2.4 million to 5 million. We took out the money before we sold it.
Okay.
So for about a year and a half or so, all the investors got all their money back and then some. Because see, the PPM, I do want to mention to your audience, in the PPM, private placement memorandum, we do have to stipulate that if we do a refinancing, 100% of that refinance dollars, the first 100, have to pay the capital that the people invested in the property.
Sure. So everybody gets their money back before any splitting goes on. Sure.
Yes,
And that's the way they're 99% of the time they're written. But my question then begs, why did you even sell? Why didn't you just hold on to it after that refinance?
Okay, good point. See, the thing is, you have to look at the cycle. We are so happy we sold it because the rigs count went down, the oil price went down, all that,
So the market depressed there a little bit. Okay, so you timed it well okay.
We did.
All right, fair enough. So,
but we are stuck with 2 properties at this time, by the way. We should have sold, but we didn't sell. But we did take out the money through refinance, and now we are trying to sell it. Investors got all the money and great returns, so they're happy. But we are still, trying to unload them.
Do you ever buy assets that you never intend to sell? Do you ever buy legacy assets? Never. Interesting.
See, the thing is it's good for investors also, Rod, that when you show them that you're getting the cash flows, and in our projections, we show them 5-year projection, right? I only show them up to 5 in my PPM and the property package and everything, right? So why not to give them the gain so that they can reinvest again with you? You know what I mean? And you can't do it.
Well, just humor me for another moment. So you can't do that through a refinance and then just hold on to that asset, even if the market does adjust some and maybe it's not as killer of a market as it was before. But you've never thought just to hold on to them and ultimately pay them off.
That's a very good point. I mean, wow. I've not thought about it, but that's a good one that you kind of
that's what this this guy that owns 45,000 units. I mean, that's his game plan, and that's always been my desire. And to me, if you can buy this stuff, refinance, pay your investors back, and then just rent them out and forget about it. I mean, I don't mean forget about it literally, but I mean not worry about, market conditions, as long as it's a decent enough area where you're not going to ever really crater, and then just let it sit and pay itself off. I don't know. That to me is exciting.
Wait a minute. So maybe this is a good question, and I think it'll be a good discussion for your audience to also get into and think about. What you're saying is, see, the PPM stays until the LLC is dissolved. Right. So actually, since we did not sell the property and we kept it on, we will need to keep on paying the investors, in my thinking, I think, until we sell the property.
Right, but now if you pay them their capital back, then they no longer get their preferred return. So they only share in the cash flow after that, correct?
Oh, no, they are sharing the cash flow and the equity return when we sell it.
No, I understand. But the preferred return, once they get their capital back, then the preferred return, you don't have to pay that anymore because they've already gotten their capital back. They still own their equity piece and they get the cash flow on the equity, but they're not getting the preferred return and the equity after they've gotten their capital back, correct?
You know what? We didn't do that. Oh, my gosh. I should talk to my syndication attorneys.
No, that's the way that's the way I've heard it done, and that's fine. I mean, then your investors really got a good deal. But
oh my gosh, no, we kept on paying them.
Wow. Well, see, yeah. Well, good. Maybe I've added value to you today instead of all the incredible value you've added to me. Well, listen. We're getting near the end of the show, Vinney, because we're closing on an hour, and I like to keep my listeners under an hour because they're all very busy. Vinney, such a treat. I want to actually, I know you're out of town next week, and hopefully I'll see you at the event that I'm going to here in a couple months, but in San Francisco. But I'd love to come back and do an episode with you about your mindset, because you are just such a happy guy. And I do these. Let me ask you one last question. I do these 5 to 10 minute weekly episodes. I call them your Driving Force Success Tip, and we talk about goals and motivation, visualization, dealing with fear and confidence and all of these things. And you are such a happy guy. Where does that come from? I mean, what makes you jump out of bed and where do you get that drive?
Oh my gosh. Rod, I've been a pretty happy person. Actually, in my name, it says Vinod Smile Chopra. I smile a lot, And the thing is that over the years, 40 years, I've read a lot of books. I think I heard one of your podcasts where you have thousands of books, in your library, similar to mine. And I've paid a lot of money. It's good to spend $500 to $1,000 each year into our personal development, Right. And I've used automobile all my life as a university. I call it Automobile University, where I have CDs and things. And nowadays, you could even get a bigger plan of streaming, and you could stream from YouTube,
Sure.
YouTube is a wonderful place, and Google also, where you could look at all the different things about motivation. So the thing is, in life, I've always felt 30-30-30 in life. If we live up to 90 years, and I'm 64. I just turned 64 a couple of days back.
Oh, wow.
And my life now is in that third phase, Right. And one has to have a vision board so that we can put nice pictures, nice things, what we want to do, travel, how to use retirement. And that's what motivates me every morning, because my whole thinking at this junction in time is to give a lifestyle to seniors and people like me who have money, but they don't know where to invest. So my passion is to give them an avenue to make great returns and great, retirement years, right?
Guys, I hope you're hearing that. Okay, that he truly believes that, and that obviously comes out in his presentations to his investors. So not only are you helping and giving back and helping them with their retirement, they are helping you with your deals.
Totally.
Vinney, such an awesome interview. Thank you so much for your valuable time. I'm very, very grateful for your graciousness. And I'm sure we'll talk again very, very soon.
We will, Rod. And
All
if
right.
your audience, again, you
no,
have
that's
a
right.
very
I forgot
big
to
following.
mention something. I
wouldn't mind, if they would like to call me. Again, I hope I can return calls to several of them. I love to do mentoring and all. I don't charge a penny, just like you. And it's a good way to give back to the community. My email address is Vinney, V as in Victor, INNEY, at moneil.ig.com. That's MONEILIG.com. My cell phone number, if anybody would like to, text me or call me, if I can be of any help, 925-766-3518. And I also wanted to mention, it's not a big money maker, and I don't believe, and that is, I've recorded some lectures. One of the online university reached me about 4 years back, I think, and I recorded 36 different lectures and all that, and they are at Real Estate U. So real estate, one word, and then U as a letter U .tv, and you can just Google me, and there are some lectures over there.
I'm sure they're fantastic. So that's realestateu.tv, and we'll have that in the show notes as well. And Vinney, fantastic episode with you. I'm really grateful for your time. You've added incredible value.
My pleasure. And I'd love to come back with you, Rod.
Okay.
I really appreciate what you're doing and doing very nicely.
Thank you.
If I can be of any help, please,
all right.
I'm here.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and then take a moment to visit iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. For more resources to connect with us further, please visit our website at lifetimecashflowpodcast.com. Tune in next week for our next show.